Well, here we are, another race, another year. Ironman number 41 in the bag. It's my chunky medal, my Ironman towel here. All hard earned, let me tell you. As tradition would dictate, I'm going to have my beverage. A little. Yep. Chocolate milk. So in beginning of 2024, I decided to quit drinking for the year. So no alcohol, and my mantra is no more 24, which is going extremely well. Absolutely loving it. Highly recommend it. It's life-changing, quite frankly. You wake up fresh every morning, feeling $1 million. And I can't really see alcohol being a very big part of my life going forward. So after the end of this year, but we'll see. We'll see. You never say never. So onto the race. I've been called a bit of a drama queen. Had a few dramas getting here, it's got to be said. Some of you may have seen that on Facebook. But come race day, I didn't really have any dramas at all. The biggest issue was that I had very, very severe jet lag and fatigue. I barely slept for 3 days coming into the race. I went to the UK to drop my boys off at university. I've got twin boys and they both were starting university this year. I wouldn't have missed that for the world. They worked incredibly hard to get where they got to, and they just make me so incredibly proud. So well done, boys. And it was such a pleasure to be there with you, starting the next chapter in your life. But having said that, got back, got delayed on the way back to Malaysia by 11 hours and severe jet lag. So on race morning, I woke up at 1:35, as if it was daylight. It was a bit of a shock, but there was no more sleeping. So I got organised, headed off to the race fairly early, bumped into Chrissy, and she kindly gave me a lift in her taxi. So I got to the race nice and early, set up the bike in about 10 minutes, which is unheard of for me. Normally I faff around for about an hour, worrying about what I may or may not have done properly. But then onto the beach, when I had to sit down on the phone, as you do before a race, and that all went well. And then onto the beach for a warm-up swim. Met a couple of really cool guys down by the water's edge and sat down and chatted to them for 20 minutes, which was lovely. And then lined up for the race and kicked off for the race. Now, I haven't swam at all for months. Got back from the UK on Wednesday and did a 2K swim. Did 800 metres the day before the race as a warm-up. So not a lot of swimming, and I was a bit concerned about it. But as soon as I got into the water, I felt incredibly confident, really, really strong, and I felt like I was swimming quite quickly. And that was the case for the first lap. It's a 2-lap course. I did the first lap in 37 minutes apparently, which is fantastic for me. Second lap was the lack of training showed through a bit. It got a bit ragged. But my overall time was 1 hour 16, which, as I say, is pretty good for me. It's one of my better times that I've done in Langkawi. So I was pretty stoked about that. Got through transition, got on the bike. Bike is always my strength. I've done a lot of long rides this year, culminating in 180k rides, averaging 35 kilometers an hour. That's my thing, and it's never really a problem. But as soon as we got going, I couldn't get my heart rate down. My heart rate was very high. My power was sort of like normal, but my heart rate was too high. So I concentrated on getting my heart rate down, because if not, I'm going to blow up later in the race. Got my heart rate down, and to do that, I was almost putting no power through the pedals. And I realised that at about 60k that the time was not going to be good. It was going to be a tough old ride, or certainly a slow ride. But what I didn't expect is at around about 120k, I was actually falling asleep on the bike. I never thought that would be possible, but I really was. My eyes were literally closing, and it was getting quite dangerous. So 135k, 135k, no, 160 something k. I stopped at an aid station and I literally went to sleep in the aid station for a good 20-minute power nap, and got back on the bike to do the last 15k. Not feeling much better, but at least not falling asleep. So my bike was 6.5 hours. I've done under 5 hour Ironmans in Langkawi before, bike wise, so it was pretty shockingly bad. But never mind, I was actually looking forward to getting on the run because it was so bad, which I very rarely look forward to, running a marathon at the end of an Ironman. So off I went, and I felt all right, and started running at a reasonable pace for the first couple of K. But then my heart rate just went through the roof to sort of dangerously high proportions. And I realised that I'd have to walk run, so not a problem. I just started walking a few hundred meters and running again. But every time I started running, the heart rate would go through the roof. And before long, I was literally only able to walk. So I walked 40 kilometers with some very, very brief intermittent running spattered in there from time to time, but it was it was hideous. I did my best not to think about how much further I had to go or how many hours I'd be walking for, because it was just so difficult to get one's head around and keep going. But eventually I got across the finishing line. That was that. Got my medal, got my towel, went and had some noodles and lay down. You may have seen the photograph on Facebook. Had a little sleep at the end. But it was great. I got so much support from my tri club, Tridorphins. It seems that every corner I took, there was somebody sort of shouting, "Well done, Simon, keep going," and really, really enthusiastic. It was superb. Those guys are great. Dean, who did the 70.3 earlier in the day, he was there with June. They were there for every lap to give me support with the dogs, and it was just brilliant to see them. Dean gave me the dogs at one point to get them to pull me along, but they nearly pulled me over. So we abandoned that idea. And then at the finishing line, I saw KK and Mariana, and they escorted me to the finish line with big smiles on their faces and loads of cheers and loads of support. So it was a wonderful experience, and really was the icing on the cake. So thanks guys, you're all absolute heroes to me. So that was it. That was the race done and dusted, and I just looked at last year's vlog from the bog, and the story, it seems, is very similar. I'd actually forgotten last year's race and till I had that update, so there's a lot of similarities. I think one of the similarities is that I didn't do any swim training last year again, and still had a reasonable time. But I think what that does is it sets you up for a really, really tough day on the bike, because if your body is being overstressed in the swim, then by the time you get on the bike, then you're already in a massive hole. And I'm fairly sure that's what my problem was yesterday, on top of the jet lag. So those two things. So I've said to myself, I've promised myself that we won't go in half-cocked again, especially around the swimming. We'll make sure that the swims, it may not be any faster, but at least I'll have done the mileage before the race. Next race is going to be Ironman Tallinn in Estonia, August the 23rd. Anybody that fancies doing an Ironman, come and join us, because Marco and I are doing it. It's going to be a hoot. It's a flat, fast course. It could be very windy, but it's cool weather. I think the average temperature is just 17 degrees, so that's good for people like me and Marco who overheat very easily. Yeah, that's the plan. Going to try and qualify for Kona there, so it's a big ask, especially after yesterday. I'm sure a few of you will be chuckling or rolling your eyes at that statement. But we're going to give it a shot. And then, of course, next year, Ironman Lake Harry as usual. So that was it. That was the day that was, and still loving it, still buzzed, still wanting to do more. Although I did say to myself afterwards, I'm never ever going to do another Ironman until I do the next one, which made me laugh anyway. That's it. Take care. Bye bye.